you go outside of Australia and you realise very quickly that most markets are bigger than Australia. So things are working okay in Australia. You go, geez, if they just do half good over in the other markets, then you can have a bigger business than what you have in Australia. So, similar opportunity in terms of Uber just starting, and there was no one providing vehicles and support services like we were. So we had the partnerships with Uber and some other platforms, car manufacturers, and then, some strategic investors that we got. It's all aligned with us in making sense for us to sort of give it a crack overseas.
So it was Canada, Mexico, London.
UK, yeah.
UK.
Yeah.
And what was the biggest issue or challenge or difficulty you found controlling and running an international organisation as opposed to when it was Australia, just Australia?
Very good question. Look, I think it was actually the time zone. Because although there was a lot of stuff, there was a lot of stuff going on, right? But there was a lot of stuff going on in Australia. But I think one thing that really sort of catches you off guard in our experience, in my experience, is when you're dealing with, Australia time zone, European time zone, North American time zone, things go 24 hours. So like things are just moving it, 24/7, particularly during the week. So there's only so many hours in a day, and you got to sleep and eat. So yeah, it just means that you've got to you can get burnt out more easily, and you can really you get in a situation where you're running really hard. And when you're trying to start up and scale a business up, you want to move at really good pace. So every sort of minute or every hour, like you want to just get things turning. So I think that when you're all these time zones, things are naturally slower. You can't just move at constant pace, and I think that was probably the single biggest challenge to get things fired up.
But you know what's funny about that?
Manage, yeah.
You'd never think of that as the biggest problem. Like, it's someone who doesn't run an international company. I would imagine different problems, but the big problem was just time zone. I got burnt out because there were new problems happening while I was sleeping, and I wasn't able to just have that uniformity of daytime is I'm working and nighttime is I'm sleeping. And so you moved to London. Did the Australian business get impacted without your presence? Because a business isn't the same when the owner's not there. And did it get impacted?
We had investors, so I wouldn't classify myself as the owner. But yeah, I think the
founder.
Yeah, the founder. Yeah,
the CEO.
CEO. Yeah. It's not just me that went and left the Australian business. There was a number of us, sort of senior management that went and helped the launch overseas. And I think that, taking out, 4 or 5, good people that we had, there's certainly some challenges that came in as we had to get new people on board, and they didn't have the experience and the exposure to some of the key managers and management in place.
Is that something that you would encourage others expanding internationally, or even, for example, I experienced it in expanding to Melbourne. Is that something you would encourage people to pay special attention to, because that could become a problem?
Yeah, 100%. Look, we expanded overseas within 2.5 years after we launched, and I think that you got to make sure you've got some solid foundations in place in terms of people, systems, processes, the culture. So yeah, look, I think we ran into some challenges, and there was definitely some lessons learned. But it comes down to leadership. You've got to have the right leadership and management in place, and I think that it was all part of the learning experience.